Hello, everybody, and welcome back to We Know You Know, a podcast about Psych. Today, we are going to talk about Season 3, Episode 2 of Psych. And I'm one of your hosts, Barb, and I'm joined by Matt, my co-host.
Hey, guys.
If you're enjoying the show, please remember to like and subscribe and share it with your friends if you know other Psych fans.
We also got to remember to give a shout out to the official Psych Fanatics of Facebook group, as well as our Psych subreddit. We have a lot of members from there. We appreciate you guys coming in. And if you guys are not familiar with those groups, you should check them out.
Definitely. So we've got some, I guess,
Fan emails,
news.
right?
Yeah,
Or
some
messages?
fan messages and responses. This one really, really made me made me laugh. This is from Carol, and Carol comments quite a bit in our Facebook group online, the We Know You Know podcast about Psych Facebook group. And she said, "Okay, normally I'm Team Matthew. Love sci-fi, Twin Peaks, not a fan of Hallmark movies. But at the end of Shaun and Gus of the Dead podcast episode, I'm temporarily Team Barb and would love to virtually smack Matthew for not knowing Grease or Bob Dylan and never watched Psych musical. Come on, son." She said,
I
she
get
said,
that.
she said I would like to virtually smack Matthew.
You know,
Carol, I feel that way all the time.
I get it. I do get it. I mean, it is what it is. I just haven't seen it and don't really care to. The Grease, that is. I've seen a couple scenes of Grease. It just does not get me. I just don't like all the singing. But no, the Psych musical we will be watching. I think, if I'm not mistaken, it doesn't actually intersect with the show until season 7, episode 7, if I recall.
Yeah,
It's
definitely
somewhere at the end
later.
of season 7, so it's far away. So
Mhm.
I'm not sure if that's something we would want to do until until it's chronologically correct, or if we would want to do it early as like a fun little side thing, or maybe the end of season 3 wrap up. I don't know. We'll have to think about it.
We'll evaluate, but you need to see it.
I do. I agree. I do.
I
Yeah.
mean,
I'm hosting a Psych podcast. I need to see all the Psych.
and I will add, Carol, the next time that I'm around Matthew, I'm more than happy to give him that smack for you, okay? I got you.
Well, on other news, we have an email from Glenn again.
Okay.
And this one, let's see. So it looks
Our
like
friend Glenn.
he's catching up on the podcast now. So here it is.
Okay.
Hey, hope you're well. Finally getting a chance to catch up on the podcast. Haven't had a chance the last month or so. You're keeping up the great work. One thing I've noticed, you haven't paid much attention to the titles. Quite a few could be thrown into the pop culture references. I haven't watched any of the movies yet. I wanted to get your opinion on whether to wait until I complete the rewatch of the series. Thanks. And
Oh.
so, as far as the first thing is, I'm glad you're catching up. I'm glad you came back and you're
Yes.
following up on all the episodes. I hope you enjoy them, especially our Psych 3. This is Gus at the end of season 2. Let's see here.
Well,
And
but that
oh,
goes on to the movies. That goes on to talk about the movies. I don't think he's
that's
watched
right,
the
because
movies.
he's saying he hasn't. He said he hasn't watched any of the movies yet. Okay,
Right.
so all right, so then let's skip over to that. So as far as the movies go, and for anybody else who's listening who is watching the show for the first time and wondering if they could watch the movies and then go back to the show sets up the movies. If you go and watch the movies without ever watching the show, without knowing any of the story or even the characters from the whole series, there's you're going to be lost on a couple different things. You're not going to know possibly some of the bits and the jokes. You're definitely not going to know all the characters that are in the movies.
Right.
So I
Not only
definitely
that,
would not recommend watching them out of order if you
yeah.
haven't done it.
I agree with that completely, particularly the end of the series sets up the first Psych movie.
Yeah. And then
And, like,
the
you have to
second and third movies are completely different from the first because of Tim's stroke.
exactly.
They kind of rewrote, I guess, whatever
Yeah.
they had planned. They kind of changed it up to address Tim's situation. So,
Well, to include him in the filming, they sort of had to, and
yeah.
Lasseter's character was going to be different. So,
Mhm.
I agree with Matthew on this one. I kinda think you should watch them in order after the series. If you've not watched the whole series, don't watch the movies yet.
I mean, characters alone,
Mhm.
the main, let's say, protagonist of the first movie, you won't even know who it is if you
Yeah.
don't, if you haven't gotten through at least to, I think, season 6 or 7,
Mhm.
um, without going into detail on it. So, yeah, unfortunately, you if you watch it, you're not gonna be happy with it. It's not gonna mean the same thing. So,
Right.
I wouldn't even try. Yeah, just
Yeah,
enjoy the show, watch
and
the episodes, get the build up, and then, enjoy the movies.
yeah, there are definitely big pieces of the plot that will only make sense if you've seen the show.
And it will spoil the show, e
Oh, yes!
especially if you watch it, like, if you watch it in reverse. So, without getting into the
Yeah.
details, the answer is
Yeah,
no.
just wait. Wait until you've seen the whole series, yeah.
However, if you have already do it and you said rewatch of the series, if you remember all the details, you remember all the, like, the story elements, then yeah, you can go ahead and watch it. Um, I mean, if you're just doing a rewatch and you've already seen it, then you'll probably just remember it as it comes up. But I
Yeah.
mean, if you really want to appreciate it, get it fresh in your head. Watch the show again and then hit the movies up.
Yeah, but as always, thank you, Glenn. We love hearing from you. Keep writing
Yeah,
us
definitely.
and keep enjoying the show.
All
I
right,
have
Barbara.
one other
Oh,
thing
you have
to
another
add.
one?
Well, I have another thing to add. It's not a mail, but if you guys have not listened to the episode of The Psychologists Are In with the guest star of John Ross Bowie on it, I highly recommend that. That was an excellent episode and it gave a lot of really cool information. So I highly recommend listening to that if you haven't
Who is John
already.
Ross Bowie?
John Ross Bowie, he actually was a guest star on Weekend Warriors. He played the dentist in Weekend Warriors in
Oh,
season 1,
yeah. Yeah, yeah, I
and
heard about this, yeah.
yes,
Mhm.
and
Wendy was talking about it.
he also went on to, have, like, a recurring role in Big Bang Theory, and he was one of the stars of Speechless. So he's done quite a few things, but he's very entertaining, and finding out that he read for Gus and got really far in the process, like, came close to being Gus, was very interesting, but even he will say, "No, Dule Hill was the perfect Gus." So it was interesting.
If you're
It really
curious, he was
yeah.
Eric Kripke on Big Bang
No,
Theory.
he was Barry Kripke.
It wasn't Eric? I thought it was Eric. Oh,
No,
no, I haven't seen too much of the show, so
no, Barry Kripke.
okay.
So anyway, interesting
Yeah.
interview, and if you can give it a listen, I think you guys would probably really enjoy that episode. All right.
Alright, let's get into the episode. This week, we're gonna be watching Murder, Anyone, Bueller. It first came out on July 25th, 2008. It was written by Steve Franks and Andy Berman and directed by Michael McMurray. Barb, did you have any info on them?
I do. Well, we already know about Steve Franks and Andy Berman,
Sure.
but Michael McMurray, very interesting to know that he only has 4 directing credits. Most of his credits are for cinematography. I found that to be pretty interesting.
Hmm.
He has directed 2 episodes of Psych, this being his first, and then he directed 1 episode of Warehouse 13 of Monsters and Men, and then 2 episodes of Warehouse 13, and 3 episodes of a show called Soul Food. That's all he's done.
Do you have a synopsis for us? What's going on with this episode? What's this one about?
While attending Gus's high school reunion, Sean thinks that there has been a murder. He has no real information about this murder, so he has to work to solve the case and get the others to believe him.
And judging by the name of this episode, I definitely get the high school vibes in this one. So,
Absolutely. And should we go ahead and break the news to everyone now that you have never seen Ferris Bueller's Day Off?
oh god, someone's gonna slap me.
Carol's gonna wanna hit you again,
uh-huh.
and I'm gonna be happy to do that for her. Um, that is a fantastic movie.
Well, one of these days, maybe one of these days.
I think you've got some homework, Matt. I mean, I really think that you've got some homework here.
Mhm. Maybe, maybe.
I'm gonna go ahead and explain this to you. There is a teacher in that movie that when he talks, this is what you get. Anyone? Anyone? When he takes attendance,
Mhm.
Bueller, Bueller.
I've
Like,
heard
the
the
whole
jokes about it
thing is
before.
like yeah, you really, really need to watch that movie. It's very good. Okay.
Alright, let's get this party started.
Alright, let's do it.
So, immediately, it opens up with "Don't You Forget About Me" from The Breakfast Club, and, I mean, that sets the vibe for the show, really. So, there are some Amazon fun facts that we can share with you guys. The first one is that this is the first episode of the series to not feature a young Sean, young Gus, like, flashback moment, and, the high school that they're using is not a real high school.
Okay, we start off this episode with Gus trying to make sure in the Gus way that we're all familiar with, that everything is perfect at his high school reunion. That this night is 13 years in the making, he says. It's like everything has to be right. And Sean is wearing I don't know why they have him in this. He is wearing like this plaid, like faint plaid shirt with like
What's wrong with what he's wearing?
he is wearing a casual shirt with a tie.
Yeah,
This
what's
is
wrong
like
with
a
that?
casual button down. No, 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 no,
I
no.
don't see what's wrong with it, but,
No,
huh.
that's not okay. I also think that we just went past a pineapple sighting. I think there's pineapple floating in the punch.
That doesn't count. You
It
gotta see
does
it in the
count.
zoom
It's
in. Nope,
pineapple.
that's lemon, that's
It's
lemon.
lemons. Okay. All right. All right. There's one though right
Sean
in back of them. Look.
Yep. Alright, so Barb has spotted our first pineapple. We're, what, 20 seconds in? 14 seconds in, and there's one on the
Mhm.
back table. You see the crown sticking up out of the bowl of fruit,
Yes.
and, right behind a very stressed out Gus, who Sean is just really giving a hard time.
There's another pineapple on the table.
Oh, yeah, they're making up for last episode.
Yeah.
Alright, so at 50 seconds, so Gus's big idea for, being, for running the class reunion is instead of name tags, they have their photo, their, like, senior photo from back in high school, just, like, pinned to their chest, and Sean pulls out his, and it's actually a picture of Judd Nelson. Gus is not impressed.
Awesome.
He's not impressed.
In fact, he knew beforehand that that's what he was gonna do.
And in case we didn't say it already, they're celebrating their high school class reunion.
We have a couple of characters have come in here. First, they've got the high school, like the prom queen and the quarterback of the football team, which are very stereotypically they are still together and yeah.
Mhm.
And in back of
Eileen
them
and Howie.
mhm, and in back of them walks in Rachel Lee Cook, who plays Abigail.
And Sean also had an interesting moment of, like, showing that he doesn't remember anything about high school. He doesn't remember anybody's name except, apparently, Abigail
Abigail.
Lightar. I love the way he says her name, Abigail Lightar. I don't know, not yet. Whenever he walks up to her and talks to her.
Mhm. Aw.
Sean is a bit taken with her. Barb, careful, careful. Don't get yeah.
Things are about to happen that I don't
Mhm.
like.
Alright, so we have our first little moment meeting Abigail, and
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. I feel
Mhm.
like they've got good chemistry. I feel like they've got, like, a cute story that's in their past. I like her, and I have no problems with Abby sticking around for a little bit. Sorry, we already know how you feel.
I don't think I wanna talk about it right now.
So Gus comes over to Sean while they're talking, and he's got an emergency. He needs folding chairs because there's just not enough. And Gus gives him a little setup and asks Abby to help him find the gym.
So we find out that she finally agreed to go out with Sean after he pretty much, like, begged her to, and he stood her up. But there might be more to that story.
Yeah, so they were supposed to meet on the pier, and he just never showed up, which is very strange for Sean.
Well, especially because he seems to be a bit taken by
Yeah,
her.
which is weird. Yeah, he never called. They never talked about this, and she's still a little bitter about it. And Sean just kind of blows it off without giving a real answer. As Abigail and Sean are walking through the halls trying to find the cafeteria where all the chairs are, they're joking around, they're catching up a little bit, and then as they like go to turn a corner, Abby kind of stands in front of him, and behind her through the window, Sean sees presumably a person fly past the window as if they fell off the roof, and she doesn't believe him. It also is kind of funny that when he tells her that he is a psychic, that he landed on psychic detective, and she's like, "Who chooses to be a psychic?" I totally get that. He wasn't psychic when he met her, and it's got to be a very shocking that
Well,
somebody says that.
but
I
that
totally get it.
okay, that she knows though. Maybe it's not something he went around sharing. Maybe, like, I
Possibly,
think that's not a I don't know. I don't know.
maybe. So Sean, Abby, and Gus are outside where the body should have fallen, but there's nothing there. The only thing he really remembers seeing is a blue Letterman's jacket.
And Gus, of course, thinks that Sean's doing it on purpose just to ruin his reunion.
So
He
Gus,
said it with such conviction.
Sean brings up that Gus used to be a pep captain, and he's like, "Yeah, it was." And Gus is like, "Do you know what it is?" He's like, "Yeah, male. You're a male cheerleader. Yeah, right." And he's like, and Gus gets very defensive. A leader among men, Sean. A leader among men.
Was
Wow. Gosh. Gus is so tense right now. He's so stressed. He needs to relax a little bit. So Abby is just standing next to them while they're bickering. And Gus, after his whole response about the male cheerleader, Sean's like, "I know what it is, dude. I saw Bring It On." And then Abby jumps in and she's like, "Oh, I get it. You guys are dating. This makes so much sense now." And I love Abby. They gave her such a good introduction.
she's so sarcastic, just
She
like
is
them. She
like
fits right in with
perfect.
them.
She fits perfectly in.
Oh.
Sean says he was voted. Sean says he was voted most likely to succeed. You think he's gonna date me?
Gus follows it up by walking away and saying, "No body, no crime."
Oh god, I think Abby does it too. Yep, Abby does it too.
That whole scene was so good.
Yeah, we're about 5 minutes 40 seconds in, and now we're at Henry's house,
And he's, of
and
course,
we get
getting ready to
a
prepare
second.
steaks because that's what he does every time.
Yeah, well, not a bad call.
No.
But we have our second pineapple sighting, in the
3rd.
back left corner. 3rd?
This is the 3rd. One next to Gus, one at the front table at check-in, and now we got one here.
That's right, actually. Yep, that's right.
Yeah.
3rd pineapple sighting, 5 minutes, 45 seconds in, and it's behind Henry on his counter next to his coffee pot. But, he is about to call Maddie, who's still in town. Henry is trying to get Madeline over to have some steaks, and he is very flustered here. I don't like her answer. She says, "I would love to have a steak, but I just had a delicious salad from room service." I don't like that. Really? You're turning down meat for a delicious salad from room service? Ugh.
I don't like how
Ugh.
awkward they I just don't like how
Well,
awkward they are with each other.
she's
Like,
not
they're both
awkward.
he's
It's
asking
him, it's
awkwardly,
Henry.
she's answering awkwardly. It's
Well, I
just
agree that it does sound
no,
weird.
but who says it like that? No, who says it like that? I would love to taste one of your
Mhm.
steaks, but I just finished a delicious
It is
salad
weird.
from room service. Nobody talks like that.
He is upset with himself afterwards. Now, we're at 6 minutes, 52 seconds, and we are back at the, reunion. Sean is still trying to convince Gus that a crime happened. And he threatens to call Lassiter if Gus doesn't start listening to him and helping him out on the case. And when he follows through with that threat and he calls Lassie, h they spot Lassiter at their reunion. He came as somebody's date and he ignored their call and just kept going.
Oh.
So we find out that Lassiter is on a date here with Mindy Howlin. That's a very good point. Who goes to somebody's class reunion as a date when they don't even know them? Like, this is their first date, and she didn't even tell him it was a reunion, apparently. So, that's a sign right there
Mhm.
that you need to just get out of there and be like, "Oh, no, I'm not doing this, bye." That's absurd. Mindy is the worst.
Mindy, it's official. You've won bitchiest banana.
Lassie and Sean step to the side and, they start talking, and Lassiter tells him the same thing. Whenever Sean tries to tell him about the body or the possible murder he saw, Lassie says, "No body, no crime." And he is sick of hearing that phrase. Another pineapple sighting, 9 minutes, 40 seconds. Lassie is eating a slice of pineapple when they jump over to tell him who they believe was murdered. I'm telling you, they're making up for every
This
episode they missed
episode is
or did a
filled
bad
with the
one on.
pineapple.
Mhm. But, I mean, I guess it
They
also
have to
helps that
be.
the theme is, like, Islander theme. It's, like, Hawaiian themed, like, prom, so that helps. God, I really want some pineapple right now. Oh, alright, back on topic. Hmm. So, Sean
Mhm.
is looking around and seeing all the people in Letterman jackets, and Gus told him that the state champs, won a pin, like a state champs pin, which SC matches the pin that he saw outside. Now he thinks back to the only person he saw with the actual pin on their jacket, and that was Howie, the prom king football jock guy that came in.
Yeah, he was like the quarterback, married to the prom queen. But Howie Tolkien is right behind him, so that's a no.
Sean calls Juliet in as a backup, which is going to be very awkward with Abigail there.
Okay, we have sort of a reference here. Do you know this reference, Matt?
Is it from the 16 Candles?
Yeah, well, yes.
Uh, uh,
Yes,
I think there's actually
this
another
is
one from 16 Candles in here too.
yes, there is.
Mhm.
This one, though, is from 16 Candles. I'm so proud of you. Have you
I know,
actually
me too,
seen
me
that
too.
movie?
Yes, I
You
have.
actually you have? Okay.
Yeah.
Alright, alright, alright. Okay. They're just like, it's the guys, the more nerdy guys sorta standing in the hallway talking about the girls, and there's Sean
Mhm.
with them. He looks very out of place, but it is what it is.
We also need to mention the scene that we just saw having to do with Lassiter and his date. His date, Mindy, introduced him to her like former boyfriend when she was in high school, and it's
Who sh
very clear now
Yeah.
why she invited Carlton to it, and it's because she's trying to either make him jealous or get back with her ex, who looks like he's now either married or at least in a relationship with somebody else. So, not the best person.
Clearly, she's still got a thing for the guy.
Mhm.
Lassie is just there as a pawn.
But, now we're about 11 minutes in, and it looks like we're in the hallway next to, like, a trophy case. Sean is sitting out in the hall with a bunch of, like, nerdy guys that are drinking and just kinda just complaining and being, like, dorky, about how they're, like, here by themselves, and Sean is trying to blend in.
Hmm.
Yeah, while Sean is talking with them, he looks over at the trophy case and he sees that it's been tampered with. Somebody's trying to, like, break into it, the lock's been messed with, and that's when Juliet arrives in a very brightly colored dress.
She missed her own high school reunion, so she's wearing a prom or a not a prom dress, but a
The
nice
dress that she got for it.
yeah. Wow. And she okay, Lassie's date has just made a mockery of being a cop, and so she's gonna be, like, dead to him.
So Sean is talking to Howie and Mindy, or not Mindy, what's her name? Eileen. So Sean is talking to Eileen and Howie, the prom king and queen, the popular kids that they were, and he brings up that somebody was tampering with the trophy case in kind of a casual way to try and gauge his reaction to it, and they react perfectly normal. Um, Eileen brings up how Howie's like running for was it state assembly, Yeah, he doesn't seem to mind that somebody tampered with the trophy case. Juliet does mention that for somebody who is kind of stuck in the past, he didn't seem to mind too much that somebody might have vandalized trophies from and he was on the football team. After Sean's call, Henry called Madeline, and they're both now over in his like attic, looking around, trying to find what Sean was talking about. And they get to talk a little bit.
Oh, do you hear "Love Is a Battlefield" playing in the background?
17 minutes in, and Sean spots his mom and dad come to the reunion bringing him a box of stuff. And he is super embarrassed that his parents were here. And again, Sean is suspecting that Henry's up to something. Last scene, Mindy kind of get into it a little bit, and they end up breaking up, and her purse ends up tipping over, and he finds some medication that I guess explains why she's acting so erratic and weird.
We learn now why Sean wanted the box from Henry's house, because he had a key ring on it with all of the keys for all the high school doors in that box.
And he got them because by the end of senior year, he managed to become a member of the custodial union, which definitely sounds like Sean. Like, oh, I want keys to the whole. Let me just become a custodian.
Do we count this pineapple again?
I think we need to count it again because I don't think it's the same one. We've got another pineapple sighting, 19 minutes, 30 seconds on the table behind Henry. I don't believe that any of these have been duplicates so far. I think these are all unique pineapple sightings in the show. Henry and Madeline go off to take a look at the rest of the school because they both went to high school there. Or well, Henry went to high school there, and he's going to show her around. And we get some more of Sean and Abigail Lightar, which I love.
Not nice, Matt. It's not nice.
So Sean takes Abby with him to try and solve the crime, and they, using the keys, sneak up onto the roof of the school to look around and see. And Sean puts on a little bit of a show for her to try and impress her.
That is totally the dance from Breakfast Club.
hmm While up there, they're about to kiss in their moment, and Sean, in the corner of his eye, in his periffs, sees a footprint from a cowboy boot, which the only cowboy boots he's seen tonight is from Howie Tolkien. Sean shares his theory with Gus, and Gus isn't buying it because Howie is just out there with his wife dancing. They're just pretending like everything is relatively normal. 23 minutes in, Sean and Gus are in the library looking through old yearbooks to see if anybody stands out. And Gus is kind of having a little bit of a mental breakdown over where he was and where he's at now, and he's had some conversations with people who were like, "Oh, I thought you were gonna be a doctor. I thought you were gonna be this, that," and he's just in pharmaceuticals, and he's kind of having a hard time coping with reality. Gus ends up finding out who the other guy was, the person who was associated with the football team, but they didn't play, and he sees him as a part of the what was it, the mechanics club? But he was working on cars at the school. So that leads Sean to a garage, wherever the garage is here at the school.
It's called the shop class
Auto
or
shop, yeah.
auto shop,
When he gets
not
there,
the
he finds that
garage.
the door is already been unlocked and it's open. And he's looking around inside.
And we're about to get another 16 Candles reference right here.
hmm He sees Henry sitting in one of the cars in the garage. And Sean goes and sits down in the car with him, set up for that 16 candles moment. So we have actually a really great moment in the car between Sean and Henry. And Sean appears to be talking about Abigail. and he's asking his dad, like, "Do you think that there's these moments that you get where it's just one opportunity, and if you mess it up, you don't get them again?" And Henry tells him that, yeah, those moments do exist, but those like single moments don't define your whole life. They don't define every choice you make, and moving on from them and what your next decision is the real thing that keeps you going and that kind of defines who you are, is the choices you continually make. So they have a nice little moment here, and while he's in the car, he notices that there's some photos inside of it, and or on the board outside of it, and one of them has the photo that he saw in the yearbook, but it has a guy's name written on it, Peter Coulter. And obviously, before Sean gets out, we get the 16 Candles reference that we were talking about earlier, where Sean looks over at his dad and says, "So, can I borrow your underpants just for like 15 minutes?"
Mhm. He had
And
to.
Henry is,
He had to.
he's like, "You ruin a good moment. You ruin a good moment." It's perfect. So good.
Wait, wait, wait. We can't pass that by. We can't pass that by. Okay, so
It's not
Sean
about
Gus
them right now. It's about him and Abby right now.
no, it's never not about them. They're at the
Sean and
police
Abigail.
station, and Jules is running names of all these people from the reunion for Sean and Gus, who and they're there with her. And she says, if Chief found out that I was running names for you guys, she'd have my ass. Or no,
Yeah.
my ass would be gone, or something like that. And Sean says, well, we definitely don't want that to happen.
Abigail
Yeah.
Spencer has a good ring to it, huh? Huh?
Wow, you are
Abigail Spencer, Abby Spencer.
very good thing, Matthew, that you are not sitting right next to me right now. That is not right. Just play.
All right, so we're at 27 minutes 40 seconds. Sean and Gus are with Juliet back at the police station, and she is looking up the name, the Colton, the name that they just found in the car for the possible victim, and his connection to Howie and Eileen. It turns out that 3 days before graduation, there was a car accident and somebody died. Peter Coulter then was charged with manslaughter. Oh, and Eileen and Howie were in the car with Peter. There was also a restraining order against Peter Coulter by Howie and Eileen Maxwell, which is interesting. And this seems to be what pulls it all together for Sean. Sean believes that Peter took the rap for the car accident, that he wasn't actually driving, and it was most likely Howie or Eileen who were with him in the car. And they somehow convinced Peter to take the rap for the accident. And that's most likely why they got the restraining order against him later on, is because he was harassing them about it, maybe. But he's got all the answers, and he's about to do the wrap up, and he wants to do it at the high school. The big problem, though, is that they still need to find the body, and Sean is sure that it's still at the school.
Lassie comes through for him.
Lassiter runs into them at the station and kind of saves their butt from the chief, and he brings up, as almost a distraction, really, that he is arresting his date, Mindy Howland, who was apparently like stole someone's identity and has like prescription drugs she shouldn't have. And it's he's super excited. It's the best first date he's had in a while. So Sean and Gus are back at the police station, and they're back at where the body should have landed, and they're looking for possible places that it could have gone. And this leads them to a window nearby that's on the ground that leads to the girls' locker room.
That's one of my favorites. You must be out of your damn mind, Sean.
Sean and Gus sneak into the girls' locker room to see if there's anything pointing at somebody being here. And while they're in there, Howie and Eileen also come in. And they're kind of sneaking around, avoiding them to make sure that they don't get seen. And they're trying to see what Howie and Eileen are doing. Sean thinks they're stashing the body here. Now, in this scene, Howie and Eileen are looking for them, and I've got to call BS here. If you've watched this episode and you've seen this scene, you would know that it's very sketchy how they didn't see them. We're just kind of believing that they didn't see them as, as it is, but in reality, they were not hiding very well and they should have seen them. Any other person would have seen them, but I'll let that go. Sean and Gus end up taking refuge in a closet, and in there, they find a mascot. It looks strangely rigid, and upon inspection, they find the body that they were looking for.
Yeah, it's kinda sitting weird too. They start kinda poking it. And there it is. They take the mask or the head off of this mascot. They find dun dun dun.
Peter Coulter. Yeah, he's dead.
Yes, he's dead.
So Sean and Gus are carrying the body in the mascot uniform through the hallways so that they have their evidence. At 34 minutes, we come back to Maddie and Henry in the main hall, the gym where they're having the whole reunion at. Henry's trying to spend some more time with Maddie, but Sean and Gus are on stage announcing the prom king and queen, and they bring up Eileen and Howie right on the stage, which is honestly a perfect setup to start the wrap up.
Absolutely. I'm just gonna add that the guy who plays Howie, he's been in, like, so many Hallmark movies. He's, like, a lead in the Hallmark movies, many of them.
I'm glad I didn't know that.
Well, I mean, I just feel like you should know it. It's good information.
Uh huh. And they come up on stage and get their crowns, and that's when Sean start talking. And he gives his wrap up on stage in front of everybody,
And as soon as he starts talking, they know.
including Abigail Lytar, by the way.
Uh-huh.
So the gist of it is that Peter Coulter essentially like lived in the shadow of Eileen and Howie. He looked up to them and always was trying to be friends with them. And they were all in the car that night, but Howie was driving and he got into the accident, but he convinced Peter to take the blame for it so he wouldn't lose his scholarship. Peter's life unfortunately did not go in the direction. While Howie and Eileen stayed together and their life went pretty well, Peter got stuck and that one mistake changed his life forever.
Mhm.
And when Howie decided to be a candidate in the state assembly, Peter started to contact them and kind of harass them, probably threaten them a little bit. He's the one who most likely tried to mess up the trophy shrine that was idolizing somebody who messed up his life. And when they went up on the roof and they talked about it up there privately, Howie ended up pushing him off the roof. And now that they have a body, Lassie and Jules can arrest him.
Yeah, thought you were gonna say now that they have a body, they have a crime.
And here's an awesome moment too. Sean on stage gives props to Gus for helping him solve the crime, for setting up the whole reunion, for being a good friend.
So nice. He just gave him, like, the best compliment about what a great friend he is.
He did. It was good.
Aw.
Henry and Madeline saw it too. And, they have a little moment of their own. And Sean ends up catching up with Abigail.
Really don't like
Love
this
it.
part. We could just stop it here.
And this is where he has his opportunity to try and make it
Mhm.
right. And he admits what really happened when he stood her up. He admits that he did actually come there
He
and he
remembered
saw
what she
her.
was wearing.
Yeah, he saw her at the pier at the end. He tells her exactly what she was wearing that night and how she was behaving while she was waiting for him. He even saved the tickets to the carnival that they were supposed to go to. And he admits that he was so nervous that night to go out with her because of how much he liked her that he choked and
He
he
liked
was
her too
just
much, he
he
said.
dropped the ball. And they kiss. Abigail Lytar. I love them as a couple.
It's not that I don't like her. I just know what really needs to happen. But he looks at Jules right after he kisses her, he looks at Jules.
And then he looks back at Abby
But he knows. He knows something else.
No, this is not closure. This is the start of something new.
It should be closure. Mhm, and he let her walk away. Okay, and then we end the episode.
At 41 minutes and 25 seconds.
Gus has written a letter, and it's a very Breakfast Club ending, and there goes Sean in the trench coat and, with the arm in the air like Judd Nelson ends in The Breakfast Club.
Yeah, you get that ending where it's like they're reading the note, and it's actually a note from Gus to the people at the, high school who charged him essentially fees for damages, and,
Mhm.
it's the him telling them off. This was amazing. I
Yeah,
loved every bit of this.
yeah.
All the
This was a
references,
good
all of the
episode.
jokes were really good. It just had that perfect feeling between the music and the environment.
Yep.
We got to see a lot of the characters. It was a fantastic episode.
Yes, it was. It definitely was. Which, is a great lead in to well, you just kinda gave your general thoughts, but how many pineapples do you give it?
5, no doubt.
Yes, yes.
5. I could watch this episode on repeat.
Yeah, me too. Me
This is
too, and
amazing.
it particularly speaks to me because so many of the references are so incredibly clear. I have seen all of these movies. It's like,
And
I
I've
don't
seen a
know.
few of them, and I
Yeah,
like them all too. 16 Candles, Breakfast Club, I love it.
yeah. It
I still
was
haven't seen Pretty in Pink. I haven't
oh, it's
seen
so good,
there's
Matt.
one more that they referenced that I haven't seen. Ferris Bueller's Day Off, I haven't seen. I need to watch those.
Mhm.
Mm.
Yeah, well, we're gonna talk in the references about a few of these things, so, but I would also give it 5 pineapples. I like not only the plot and theme of this episode, but I really like the character development in it that I mean, you get to see Lassie dating, you get to see that the chief is still on top, she knows exactly what they're doing.
Kind of.
You yeah, she knows they're up to something. You get to see Jules and how, like, she was kind of happy to be there because she didn't go to her reunion. There were just and then Gus, how Gus felt about high school versus how Sean felt about it. It was just a good you had the whole Henry Maddie thing, the Henry Sean moment. There was like a little bit of everything. It was a really good episode. One of my tops of this season, I believe. So, yeah, so 5 pineapples for me, 5 pineapples for you. Let's talk about some of the notable points. We had what, 4 pineapple sightings, I think.
I think it was 5.
Tell me the Henry lesson.
The Henry lesson I got is life is not made up of a single moment. What defines us is the choices we make in the moment and the one after that and the one after that. These moments are all around us, happening all the time.
I liked how he snapped his fingers
Yeah,
when he
like
said it.
there, there,
Yeah.
there, there, there,
Yeah,
all
look
around
all
us.
around us. Yeah, it was a good Henry lesson. And I don't know. Okay, so did you have an "ah, yeah" moment?
Oh my goodness.
There were so
Um,
many.
yeah, this episode was incredible.
It was, like, filled with them. I don't even think I can pinpoint one in
I
particular.
would
They just
love
were
to
so
see the
many.
commentary version of this. Like they did the one where they watched Late Night Gus and they talked about it. I would love to see one for this episode too.
Last night, Gus, yeah.
Last Night
Yeah,
Gus, I'm sorry, yeah.
yeah. Do you have a "come on, son" moment in this one?
Um, maybe a little one with like Lassie. I feel like he shouldn't have been with her. I feel like he should have been like, I
But
don't
I
know.
think what they were trying to
She
say
was
is, like,
treating
he
him very
really
poorly.
yeah, but I think they were trying to say that he's really trying to start dating people, like, he
Mindy Howland, yeah.
right, you know?
Yeah, I get it. I get it. I guess that was the only time where I was like, come on, man. Like, what are you doing with her? Just yeah. So, yeah, that'd
Yeah.
probably be mine. I don't really have anything I really didn't like though. I really
My
loved most of this episode.
mhm.
Even the story was good. Like the
Yeah,
case was
my
good.
come on son is that he kissed Abigail at the end, but it is what it is. I'm gonna have to just deal with that for a while.
Mhm. I actually really liked that.
Whatever.
I liked
Yeah.
I think that might be my way for it. It's like, "Oh, are we gonna get to is this gonna be a new relationship? We gotta wait and see what happens with Abigail Lightar."
I liked how he looked at Jules afterward, like he knew. He knew that his heart belonged to somebody else and he should have been doing that.
Or he just was
Anyway,
deciding, he wasn't
it's
sure.
whatever. Was there a silly nickname in this one?
I don't think so.
I didn't think so either. That's
I
why I
didn't catch
asked
one.
it as a question because I
Hmm.
didn't get one. And we talked about favorite quotes. What was it that Henry said? How did he say it when he was on the phone with Madeline? Bump or something. What was
Oh,
it?
Baba Boo.
Ba ba boom.
Baba Boo.
That was fantastic.
Henry Flustered, man. Hmm. All right, Barb.
There's
Now we're
a
at
lot.
the pop culture references part. All right,
This
let's get
one
into
was
it. This one, yeah,
jam-packed. Okay, here we go. Ferris Bueller's Day Off. The theme to this in itself was a nod to that movie. It was a very popular classic movie starring Matthew Broderick about an epic day of skipping school. Don't You Forget About Me was the theme song from The Breakfast Club, a popular classic movie from 1985 starring Molly Ringwald, Anthony Michael Hall, Ali Sheedy, Emilio Estevez, and our next reference, Judd Nelson. And I will add to this that all of them except Emilio Estevez guest starred on Psych at one point or another. All five
mhm,
or all of them except Emilio. So Judd Nelson is an actor best known for some 80s movies, The Breakfast Club, From the Hip, New Jack City. Suddenly Susan he was on a TV show with Brooke Shields for a while. Suddenly Susan, Cabin by the Lake, and the sequels that followed. And more recently, he did a few episodes of Empire. The next movie referenced was Fresh Horses. That was a 1988 drama starring Molly Ringwald and Andrew McCarthy, who also co-starred with her in Pretty in Pink. Rachel Lee Cook, Abigail, in this episode, is an actress most known for her role in She's All That. And that was like a teen movie in the 90s. She was in that movie with Freddie
Freddie
Prinze
Prince
Jr.
Jr.
and Dule Hill.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. And let's see. From the Hip. That was a 1987 Judd Nelson movie about a lawyer. Bring It On was a teen movie from 2000 starring Kirsten Dunst about battling cheer squads. 16 Candles was a 1984 teen movie starring Molly Ringwald and Anthony Michael Hall. The Sausage King of Chicago was a reference to a person Ferris Bueller pretends to be to get a seat in a restaurant in Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Taping Larry Lester's butt cheeks together. That is an act or the act that earned Emilio's character detention in The Breakfast Club. The Breakfast Club we've kind of already referenced. That was the next one. Pat Benatar, Love is a Battlefield, is playing in the reunion as they're all dancing. That was a 1983 hit by Pat Benatar, hugely popular and used in a lot of movies, actually. Parker Stevenson is one of the original Hardy Boys. He was in that show with Sean Cassidy. Most recently, you might have seen him because he's continued to act all this time. Most recently, you might have seen him in Netflix's Greenhouse Academy. John Cusack was mentioned in this episode as well. He was in several John Hughes movies, but definitely 16 Candles, Weird Science, you know. Let's see. If You Were Here was the hit song from the 16 Candles soundtrack, performed by the Thompson Twins. The Cabbage Patch was a popular dance that was popular from like 1983. Curly Sue was a 1991 movie about a homeless man and a young girl that con people together. Mr. Mom was an awesome movie starring Michael Keaton and Terry Garr about a man that gets laid off and his wife returns to the workforce and he ends up staying home with the kids. Really funny comedy. Flubber he was referring because there have been several iterations of that movie, but this one was the 1997 version starring Robin Williams as the absent-minded professor that discovers Flubber. Ducky is a reference to John Cryer's character in the movie Pretty in Pink, who is in love with Molly Ringwald's character Andy, um, in that movie. John Hughes. John Hughes is, well, you know what? I'm going to do this last one before I get into John Hughes. Milo and Otis is a movie about a dog and a cat that have an adventure when they get separated from each other. And, they have to get back together. Okay, John Hughes is the main main source of information from this, or source of reference from this episode. He is a very famous writer and director who wrote and directed a long series of very, very classic, amazing movies. Mr. Mom, all the vacation movies with Chevy Chase, 16 Candles, The Breakfast Club, Weird Science, Pretty in Pink, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, Some Kind of Wonderful, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, The Great Outdoors, Home Alone 1, 2, and 3. Curly Sue, Flubber, Drillbit Taylor, Made in Manhattan. The list goes on. He has made some amazing films. And he only directed 8 of them, though, but really amazing films. What a great director, or writer, rather. I mean, he just has a knack for really writing feel-good stories that just kind of stand the test of time. So many classics by him. But that's all I got, Matt.
I mean, these were all good ones, though. I like the
Yeah.
movies. Like, I know some of these, and I at least know
Mhm.
roughly what they're talking about with them, so I'm not just completely lost the whole time.
Can you imagine though how, like, all of these movies that he wrote that are so, I mean, like, I think writers are lucky if they have
Iconic,
maybe
yeah.
1 or 2 that are that popular and are still talked about 25, 30 years later, the way his movies are. It's pretty crazy. He really, like, made an impact. Do you think this episode stands the test of time? What do you think about it in terms of how it holds up?
I think it holds up pretty well. The only there was 2 instances in this episode where I thought that it wasn't, logical. The
Mhm.
first one was when Sean saw the body fall. Instead of just talking to Abigail, he should have just walked over to the window and looked down. Because
Yeah, it
the
would have been.
2, like,
I
he would have
think
saw the body, and both of them would have been on the roof still. Like, if
it's
anything, he could have
true.
just stayed there and watched out the window and saw the 2 people move the body. So that was the one thing that was kinda like a fallacy that you kinda just deal with and accept. The other thing was when they were inside the girls' locker room, and they were hiding underneath the stall and behind the door, like, they would have saw at one point, literally all he had to do was, like, use his peripheral vision, and they would have saw 2 people crouched down next to them, when they were checking the stalls in the girls' locker room. So, those are the only 2 issues I had.
That's something that often bothers me about movies is, like, there'll be music playing or something, like, to kinda guide the viewer through the episode, so you'll have
Mhm.
music when you know absolutely without question that the person looking for them would have heard them.
Yeah.
They couldn't possibly be completely 100% silent, they would have heard it
Mhm.
because the music's not playing for them.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
get that. I
Mhm.
just looking past those 2 things, though, for me,
Yeah.
I think that it was really good. I thought the story made a
Mhm.
lot of sense. I liked how they did it. The whole thing made pretty good sense. We had enough clues to follow along the way,
Mhm.
and just mixed in with the environment, with all the characters showing up, it was great. I loved
Yep.
it.
I do too. There's nothing about this that doesn't hold up for me, so.
Mhm.
Alright, guys, we hope you enjoyed this episode as much as we did. On our next episode, we will be discussing season 3, episode 3, called Daredevils.
Make sure you guys check out our Facebook group and our subreddit in the links below. You can comment. You can put your poll on for what your pineapple rating is for this episode of the show is, and just let us know if you have any questions, concerns, or comments that you want us to read on the air to talk about. Let us know.
Yep, definitely. You can do that at our Gmail address, which is thepsychpodcast@gmail.com. And until next week, guys, have a good one. We'll see you then.
Bye.